Hello, welcome guys. Welcome back. Sorry I had to fix my microphone. Um, Hang on one second. Yeah, some more programming. Hello, welcome guys. Welcome back. Sorry I had to fix my microphone. Shit, one second. Gonna be doing a little bit of OpenGL again today. Start off like usual, just without LeetCode problems. LeetCode problem of the day. I was gonna stream over the weekend, but I just decided to play Battlefield the whole time. So actually, not the whole time. I did some OpenGL, but I also played a lot of Battlefield too. So we're gonna kind of pick up kind of where we left off. I think we're gonna be looking at textures today. I think the plan is for the episode for this live stream probably start with a little bit of LeetCode and then kind of move into that. Maybe get through the textures episode and kind of do a little bit of debrief and maybe move on. I don't know, go to something else, but just learn as much as possible. I didn't know Gemini was built into Google here now. That's interesting. Okay. But yeah, we're going to take a look at the problem of the day, maybe the one from the previous day too. Given a binary array knobs and integer k, return true if all ones or at least k places away from each other, otherwise return false. I mean, I think we can just easily do this in one pass, right? So, I don't know if this requires much thinking, but nums.size, I++, right? I think we can just keep some sort of count here, right? Let's call it like int, like count zeros, right? And then every time we see a zero, right? If count zeros, so if we see a 1, actually let's do 1 first. So we're looking at a vector of int. So if nums I is equal to 1, then we can reset our count. So right, count zeros can be 0, right? And then else if it's a 0, right, we just count zeros plus or equal to 1, right? But inside of here, do we always begin with a 1? Is it guaranteed that we always begin with a 1? I don't know. Given binary nums and integer k, return true if all ones are at least k places away from each other. I'm gonna assume that the first value is a 1. I don't know if it is, but I'm just gonna assume that it is. It doesn't specifically say it, but I guess we'll see when we submit it. If nums I is equal to 1, count zeros is equal to 0. But we want to check, well, if count zeros is less than, it says return true if at least k places away from each other. So at least k places. So if count zeros is less than k, then we instantly want to just return false, right? Return false, otherwise we just return true. Let's see if this passes. Okay, this passes for now, but assuming that it's not always a 1 here. Nope, we're missing something here. So it can't always be a 1 here. So we see there's a 0 here. So what if we go from 0? Is this going to pass? Nope. So let's go from 1 and just resubmit it. I just want to grab that test case. We live, Becca, we are live, bro. We are live. Let's grab that test case. Okay, so 0, 1, 0, 1, right? So how can we do this? Hang Maybe we can add an extra um because maybe we can add some sort of flag. I mean, it's only 2 test cases, right? We can go bool, flag. Flag is false. Oh, maybe, sorry, we don't even need a flag. We can go if, let's go from 0. Let's go if I is equal to 0 and fuck, let me think about this. If num's I is equal to 1, if I is equal to 0 and count zeros is less than k. Let's do it. Sorry, if I is greater than 0 and count zeros is less than k, we would return false. Let's see if that works. Maybe that should work. Okay, I think that should submit now. Oh, we're missing 1 case here now. What the fuck is going on here? 68 out of 69 test case possible. Why the fuck is there a space here, bro? What the fuck? What are you trying to do? You already have it correct, I think. I'm missing a single test case here. I don't know why there's a fucking space here, though, bro. What is going on here? Like, is that an error, bro? Like, what? Is that literally... Bro, am I tripping? Or is this an error, bro? There's not meant to be a space here. Like, is that what's failing my solution? Let me look at the comments. What the fuck? Yeah, exactly, bro. What the fuck is going on here? Like, why is there a space? I don't have that. Yeah, bro. Why am I getting a fucking space here, dude? Am I... Bro, what is going on here? Bro, is there meant... I'm gonna put on some music. Is there meant to be a space here, bro? Like, what is going on, dude? Do you have this test case here, dude? Like, what is happening here, dude? Trying to think here. Do I just hard code this fucking test case and then it'll pass? Like, I've never experienced this before on Leetcode here. That's interesting. Hang on, let me play some music first before we figure it out. Just remove the test case? What do you mean remove it? No, this was given to me by Leetcode, bro. This is... Bro, look, I submit it. This is given to me by Leetcode, bro. I didn't put in this test case. I'm failing on this test case because there's a space, I think. Maybe can I just like, if, let's do, hang on, array. Let's do vector int nums is equal to tab. Go to test case tab. What do you mean tab, bro? I don't know what you're talking about. I don't understand what you mean. Let me turn this shit down. Am I failing because of this, bro? Like... Oh, wait. I think we have to wait until we see 1. Because we have a k is equal to 2. We're failing here because we see a 0. So do we have to wait to see when we get to 1? Maybe we have to, like, wait till we get to 1, and that's when it starts. So maybe... You know the left of test result? The left of test result. Oh, test case. Yeah, click test case, yeah. What, and just remove it? Like this? I'll wait till you respond, so Reset test cases. How to create test cases on Leetcoding. I don't think that works, bro. Oh shit! Whoops. It's still gonna fail, bro. It's still gonna fail. See. I think the error might be... Hang on, I'm going to try this first. Hang on. So if... Let's have a flag here, right? If flag... Let's not start the counting until we see our first 1, right? So... Wait, how can we do this logic? Is this the same solution to what you got, bro? I don't know. If I is greater than 0. Mine is different. I have prev index I, find 1 at, and then current I, then I minus prev minus 1. Okay. Trying to think here. I'm failing on this test case. Maybe I can use some sort of flag, right? And we can flag when we see the first 1. So that's when we know when to start counting, right? So to do that, let's do, okay, like, if flag is equal to false, right? Then we make flag. Let me try your solution. Okay. Flag is equal to true. We do it this way, right? Then flag is equal to true. Oh, whoops. Flag is equal to true. Continue. Right, and then we can go, well, if flag and count zeros, return true, false. Right, so then our flag goes to true. Flag is equal to true. And then we set count zeros to be 0 as well. Right? Let's see if this works. Hang on. Okay, maybe this might pass here using a flag. Okay. Alright, there you go. That works. I don't know why I was getting that weird bug, dude. That was weird, but I mean that works too. Send me your solution on Discord, Becca. DM me your solution, I'm curious. Weekly contest 187. Leetcode, wow, bro, that's a 1200 rated, bro. That's, I thought it was pretty straightforward, but it's alright. Okay, let's jump in. Since that was a pretty easy problem, let's jump in and do, we'll do like the day before or something. So I have attempted this one before. Given a binary string S, return the number of substrings with all character 1s. Since the answer may be too large, return it modulo 10 to the power 9 or so on. Modulo 10 to the power 9. Oh, shit. Okay, let's do int mod is equal to 1 is it e to the power 9 plus 1. How do you do this, dude? I have to look this up. Let's look here. Sorry, that was probably annoying. So this is the value here. Okay. Let's think about this, right? So given a binary string S, return the number of substrings with all character 1. Since the answer may be too large, return a modulo 10 to the power 9 plus 7. I'll paste it in general. Let me try your solution. I'll paste it in general in Leetcode. Mine is different. I heard. Oh, sorry. I missed your thing. Let's see your solution. Int prev is equal to -1 for int. Yeah, if null is I is equal to 1. It's a good solution, bro. Probably better than mine, to be honest. And I minus prev minus 1. So then you check the bounds there. I minus prev is less than k, return false. Yeah, it's a good solution, dude. Okay. Let's take this one. So given a binary string S, return the number of substrings with all character 1. Since the answer may be too large, return a modulo 10 to the power 9 plus 7. I feel like there's definitely going to be some sort of math problem here. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. Okay, I think that just gave it away. So, okay. So I think the way to do this is we got a loop, right? I is less than s dot size, I plus plus, right? We want to check. Okay, well, put S 0 1 1 0 1 1 1. If okay, we probably want some sort of count, right? So in count ones is equal to 0. So let's do, well, if SI is equal to, working with a string, so 1. What do we want to do? Well, in this case here, if we got a 1, we want to increase count ones plus or equal to 1, right? Else, right? What do we want to do? I guess we'd want to reset to 0, right? So, let's have like a private section here. Let's have like a int res, right? Let's go res is equal to, we'll create a method here, factorial of count ones, right? And then we want to do int, let's do count ones is equal to 0. To do the factorial, right? In factorial, when we pass in an integer value, right? Let's do count ones. If count ones is equal to 1, right? You'll just return 1. Otherwise, I guess we're doing a recursive function here. Return factorial. If I return count ones plus factorial factorial count ones minus 1. Let's see what that gives us. Oh, we didn't even return. Let's return our res. It's probably a way better solution than that. That's Stack Overflow on address. Count ones. Address knows how to Stack Overflow on address. Oh, it's in the factorial function. Let's wrap this in an if, right? If, I don't think it makes sense, but just a, oh, wait, hang on, I understand, hang on. I guess we could do that here. We could wrap this in an if and go like if, count ones is greater than 0, right? Then we can call this here, right? This should be res plus or equal to that. Then we can reset at the end. Okay. Getting a 0 here. Ow, dude, side of my head. Haha. Equal to 0. Let's just return 0. Well, then if we pass in 0 here, right, then we can go -1. It's gonna, maybe we have to go like less than, actually, I think that's the right way to go. Screw this. If count ones is greater than 0, Alright, we don't want any zeros, right? We don't want any zeros in here else it fucks it up. We get a 3 here. Are we getting 3? We count ones. Else, if it's a 0, count one's greater than 0, we call the factorial function. We return that. If count ones is equal to 1, we return 1. If we pass in 1 here, it gets this. We can't pass in 0. It has to be greater than 0, so we can't pass in 0. I don't know what's wrong here. I generally don't know. We're going to use the mod later, because I know this will pass, really. I don't know what the bug is here. When binary string S, return the number of substrings with all character 1. Since the answer may be too large, return it modulo 10 to power 9 plus 7. Four, 3. We have a plus, right? It's not a times. We have a plus here. 0011. Bro, what am I missing here? Yeah, dude, I don't know what I'm missing here. I don't know what my syntax. I don't know what my bug is, bro. If anyone could see it, bro, please let me know. Like, turn count ones plus factorial, count ones minus 1. Am I gonna have to step through this, dude? 101. Is it the last test case that we're not dealing with? Oh, it's because we're not dealing with... Okay. Okay. I understand what the bug is. Okay, so we're missing this. If it's all ones, it doesn't work, right? So we have to think of a way. Well, if I is equal to s dot size minus 1, or no, hang on. I know what it is. Hang on. We have to go else if if si is equal to 0, or I is equal to s dot size minus 1, then we need to do this, right? Nope. 1, 0. I is equal to s dot size minus 1. For what? I was like, for sure that's gonna work. Also, if si is equal to 0, or I is equal to s dot size minus 1. If it's the last element here, we need to run this, right? Count 1 should be greater than 0. Why is this getting me 0, bro? Why is this giving me 0 here? Are we even getting here? See out. Here. Stood and L. Okay, we're not even getting to this point here. So why is that? Foreign IA is often S dot size I plus plus. If SI is equal to 1, we're working with a char here. So count ones plus or equal to 1. See out like adding 1 and L. What the fuck? I think it's converting it to a char. Hang on. Adding 1. This needs to be a string. Okay, so we're getting here, right? So that's fine. Don't need to debug that anymore. It says else if SI is equal to 0 or I is equal to S dot size minus 1. If count ones is greater than 0, we call the factorial function. Are we getting here? Okay, so we're not getting in here, but why not? It's, oh, is this wrong? I is equal to S dot size minus 1. Isn't it why you're getting the big numbers? You have to use the IE9 plus 7 mod when factorial and num sub function. You have to use that. Mod when factorial and num sub function. Is that the reason? Shouldn't I'm trying to debug why this is like it should at least get inside this loop, right? It's not. I'm not even getting the print statement, right? It's not even printing. It's not coming inside this else if. But I don't understand why. Is it getting inside of this loop? This is why I hate Leetcode too, bro. There's no debugger, bro. So it's. Yeah, it's not even getting inside this loop, bro. Like, what? Is that some syntax error here, dude? Like, what? Is there a syntax error here? Because there's an extra... No, it can't be this extra space. Bro, what? Isn't it why you're getting big numbers? No, no. I'm just trying to get this print here. I don't know why I'm not printing inside this if statement here, right? Because I have all ones. But if we're at the last element, right, there's an or statement here. If we're at the last element, it should let us in. But it's not letting us in. Oh my god, I think that's literally the reason. It is the if, dude. That is the reason. Oh my gosh, dude. I'm so stupid. That was my reason, dude. Oh my god. How did I not see that, bro? I literally just noticed it as soon as you told me, bro. I was like, oh my gosh. Okay. So now it's working. Okay. So we should fail here. Let's see here. Let's get rid of these here. Right. Get rid of this. Let's submit it. It should fail. Yeah. So we have a sign integer overflow, right? So does that mean we have to go %mod? Right? I think that's what we have to do. Nope. This should be, I think, a long. Const long. This should be count ones. I guess this should be a long as well, right? Long. Should be long res long. Just asking, what do you think about AI working better than human at coding? I used Claude for developing app. It did it in a snap of a minute. What do I think? I don't know. I have no opinion, to be honest. I mean, it is what it is, bro. Like, I don't know. It doesn't hurt me at all, you know. I just enjoy the code, man. So it's a hobby of mine. I enjoy having the knowledge, and yeah, I mean, it doesn't really affect me at all, you know. I don't think AI is going to take jobs, you know, or sorry, take, you know, software engineering jobs, to be completely honest. You know, I still think there needs to be someone. I think it's going to make probably the entry-level roles harder to get, you know, and that's just, you know, how every job is. You know, every job's getting harder to get. So, I mean, I feel like AI affects every job. Even before software engineering, like AI will probably take most of the jobs before it gets to software engineering, you know? So it's like, I don't know. I use AI as a tool. I use AI as a tool to learn and, you know, help me architect my, you know, projects and stuff like that. But, you know, I don't think it's going to really, you know, take software engineering jobs. You still need someone that knows what they're doing, you know? So, yeah, that's my opinion on it. So, I think it's great, dude. I love AI. So, I mean, it helps me with my stuff. I use it all the time. I use it to learn. So, it's great. Anyway, so we have a long here. Well, I was looking at it, confused why else-if wasn't running. Sometimes simple shit you go blank on. Yeah, I just didn't even notice. Yeah, else-if, right, needs to be two separate independent if statements, right? If it's an else-if, then it has to come off this one. But yeah. Because then it's always going to run the one, right? But we need two separate if statements here, so... Yeah, you know, it is what it is sometimes. But yeah, res plus equal to factorial, count ones, %mod. I think since we're returning an int, we have to cast this to an integer. Let's see if this works. Count ones. I believe this should be a long as well. Let's see if this passes now. Nope. Oh, bro, dude. What the fuck? I think AI really is good for smaller company or entrepreneurs. Maybe go against big companies with better idea. Haha, this generation is getting more complex. Yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, I feel like, you know, the software engineering role is going to evolve, you know, over time it's going to evolve. I think software engineering will always be a thing. I just think, you know, it'll evolve, but I don't know. I just feel like you got to use it as a tool and you got to use it to learn. And, you know, I think it is beneficial, you know, but honestly, it doesn't affect me either way. I just, you know, programming is a passion of mine. I enjoy doing it in my free time. So at the end of the day, It makes me happy, so yeah, helps me do my stuff. But yeah, I'm trying to figure out why this is not working though, bro. What is going on, dude? So I'm converting it all to a long, casting it to an integer here, because it's the return type of the int. Res plus or equal to factorial count ones % mod. Isn't that what you're meant to do? I don't know if I'm missing something here, or... I don't know, does anyone know? I'm not sure, to be completely honest. Maybe res plus factorial this % mod. Maybe that could be the reason. There's a simpler solution, but I'm not sure about the factorial way. Yeah, that's the first thing that came to my mind, bro. There's definitely probably a way better solution. Okay, that doesn't work at all. Isn't that the same thing? Oh, this is res or equal to. Whoops. Nope, that doesn't work either. Yeah, bro. I don't know why I can't pass this test case. I don't know why I'm getting a negative number here, bro. Like, fuck, dude. I'm not sure. I think I'm just gonna throw this into Claude or something. I'm not sure what's wrong here. What's wrong with my solution? That's the first thing that came to mind, bro. I literally looked at this thing and I was like, okay, factorial, right? 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. It literally made me think factorial. Again, I usually, these solutions is like the first thing that comes to my mind is kind of what I do. But again, there's for sure a better way. Like, I'm also using a recursive thing here, which is not good at all. But, you know, I'm more about just kind of parsing the solution than anything. So I guess we'll see. But logic error. You're checking SI is equal to 0. Process a segment by winner. It's giving me the other solution. I think my solution is correct. Are you sure? I think my solution is correct. I don't understand. I think AI is wrong here, to be honest. I think my solution is correct. Okay. How do I explain what I'm failing here? Let's see. Why is my solution failing? Returns int. Oh my gosh, dude. This is my issue, dude. Whoops, bro. Is that literally my issue? Hey, what are you up to? There we go. Okay. So that was my issue. So look, even Claude was wrong, bro. There you go. AI can be wrong, man. This stuff was telling me that my stuff was wrong. I have a logic error. You know, at the end of the day, it was because this was the issue, so. Anyway, I was returning an int instead of a long, but yeah, I mean, my solution sucks, dude. Like, honestly, let's have a look at what a better solution would be. So, EEMB says, hey, what are you up to? I was just doing some Leetcode. I'm going to jump into doing some OpenGL after this. Watching Chono's series, you know, teaching myself graphics programming. Count 0, total is equal to 0 for chart A and S. If A is equal to 1, we count. Else count is equal to 0. Total is equal to total plus count. Okay, yeah, that's the better way to do it. But we're just counting the ones. And we just increment with the total. Yeah, bro, I don't even understand how... That was literally the first solution that came to mind. I mean, mine is literally way more complicated than what it needs to be, but... yeah, this would honestly work. This would work, I think. So 1-1, count plus plus, else count is 0. So count is 0, 1-1. We have a total here, total plus count. So we just increment the count every time. 1-1, 5. Percent mod return total. Wouldn't this just return 5? Wouldn't we want 9 there? Cool. Any projects you doing? Yeah, dude. Any projects I'm doing? I'm working on a. I was in a fraternity college. This is a school project, so this doesn't count. But yeah, what am I doing? I'm working on a website for or a platform for my fraternity that uses Stripe and other payment stuff to, take dues and, have a platform where undergrads and, the Alumni Association can connect in a way. So I've been working on that about a month. Did a 2D game in C++. That was pretty fun too. I know I've done more. Working on, don't have a specific project in mind yet. I'm currently just learning OpenGL. But once I'm done learning OpenGL, I'm going through Chono's series right now, which I'm literally just about to get started. I guess we can just update. Actually, no, I won't update now. It'll probably take a while. Yeah, just going through Chono's series right now. So yeah, going through Chono's OpenGL series. Once I'm done with that, I plan to do... A goal of mine is to rebuild Minecraft. That's my interest, rebuilding C++ and OpenGL. I know OpenGL was used in the Java edition of Minecraft too, so that's what I'm interested in. I'm going through Chono's OpenGL series, and then I plan to, start from the basics, probably do something small in 2D. I'm not really too sure yet. And then kind of progress from there and go 3D and kind of do stuff like that. What is bro doing? What do you mean? I don't know what you're talking about, bro. You could the length of ones you've seen so far, then add it to result, keep doing it, and use percent mod. Yeah, I'm getting pretty deep into the playlist here.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Holy shit, that was loud, dude. I'm getting pretty deep. I'm at the texture section now. But yeah. Let's grab this solution here. I got 308 weeks from Microsoft, Amazon, TikTok. I just could not solve both questions on any of them. I got to fully solve second one, 12 out of 15, but never solved both questions. Bummed out. Ah, man, I'm sorry, bro. That sucks, dude. That's tough. Always a tough, bro. Second add substrings. Nice project going on. I said it wrong. My boy got to see LWJGL. What is that? I don't even know what that is, bro. LWJGL. What is that, bro? Lightweight Java game library is open source for a library that provides. Cool. Lightweight Java library. Okay, cool. Yeah, always feels so much harder than the fucking actual interview. Yeah, dude, 100% agree. Always tough, bro. Always tough. It is what it is, bro. You'll find something. Especially if you're getting those OAs, bro. At least you're getting the OA from Amazon, Microsoft, and TikTok. Like, you could not even get the OA at all. So I've never even got an OA from a big tech company. So I mean, you're one step ahead of me. So you like OpenGL so far? Yeah, dude. It's good. I only just started about a week or two ago. So I've been taking it slow. Just trying to learn. I mean, it's tough. So yeah, it's my first time ever doing any, graphics programming, really. I mean, I've done a little bit of, sending like GPU programming, I guess. But yeah, dude, it's interesting. So it's good. But yeah, let's kind of get started.
Just to recap over all of that, and there are some detailed steps kind of in between that we'll address definitely, but that is the gist of it, right? We load our image, we create a texture in OpenGL, we then have to bind that texture when it's time to render, we modify.
Did you find the OpenGL setup easy? When I first started setup for OpenGL was so shit. Yeah, I mean, I was just watching Chono's video, bro, kind of walked me through it, so it wasn't too bad, but yeah, I mean, it wasn't too bad, but I feel like setting up a C++ project is definitely one of the toughest things, with the linker and everything and all that sort of stuff. So it's kind of AIDS, but it is what it is.
Our shader to also kind of bind to that texture slot that we've bound our texture to, and we also sample that texture in our shader, and when we draw our rectangle we should see the texture. So let's just go ahead and write some code. So the first thing that we really need to do is load this image somehow into our CPU memory so that we can send it to OpenGL. So over here what I've got is a GitHub repository, which I'll link in the description below. And inside this kind of STB library, which is single file public domain libraries for C, C++, so you can use these completely free, there's something called STB image, and really there's just this one file. That's all we need. I'm going to open that file. I'm going to click on raw here, and just to make this really simple for myself, I'm just going to Control A and Control C, so I'm copying all of the text inside this file here, and back inside my project, I'm going to make a new source file here. Now
Okay, let's do that. Let's grab this code, baby. Let's grab this code. Control A. Let's grab this. Let's add
I'm gonna make a folder called vendor.
Actually, I should.
And inside there, a folder called stb_image. Just so that I can kind of know that this isn't really my code. I'll make a header file called stb_image.h and delete everything from this file and just paste in what I've copied. As you can see, it's about 7,500 lines of code here. Okay, cool. Now, if you actually read this file, this is what you should do when you get new files from the internet and new libraries and all that. It basically says pretty simply, do this, right? Define stb image implementation before you include this file in one C or C++ file to create the implementation, okay? So it should look like this. It even gives you an example, right? So what we need to do to actually compile this code once and once only is we basically add a new item. I'm gonna add a CPP file. I'm gonna call this stb_image, stb_image.cpp. I'm going to include.
Let's grab the CPP file here. I've never done anything with textures before in OpenGL, so this is the first time for me, but stb_image, not CPP. Yeah, it's the same.
Include stb_image.h, but before I do that, as it says over here, I'm going to define stb_image implementation. And that's all I need to do. And if I hit Control F7, it's going to compile.
Hashtag define stb_image implementation. Yep, looks good.
All of that stb_image code. There we go. Done.
Perfect. Okay, so mine works. That's good.
Simple as that. Now the next step is going to be to create a texture class for ourselves so that we can kind of organize all of our code. So I'm going to add a new item. It's going to be a header file. We're going to call it texture.h. I'm also going to add a new item, which is going to be our CPP file, of course, texture.cpp. I'm going to include texture.h in here. And this is just going to be our texture class. I'll include the renderer in here so that we have access to OpenGL and everything we need. And we can start with creating our texture class. So inside here, I'll make a render ID as we have for pretty much everything. I'm also going to keep track of the actual file path of our texture. I'm going to define an unsigned char, which is going to be our local buffer. So this is just going to be local storage for the texture. And then finally, we also need the width and the height and the bits per pixel.
Okay, so render ID, that makes sense. The file path, right? The file path to the texture. Unsigned char m_local buffer. I'm not sure what that's for yet, but hopefully he'll kind of explain that. Unsigned char pointer m_local buffer. Int m_width. I guess we can do it on the same line. Width m_height m_bpp. I don't know what that's for.
Of the actual texture.
Let's see what he says.
Width and the height and the bits per pixel.
Bits per
of
pixel.
The actual texture.
Bits per pixel. bpp. Bits per pixel. Let's keep a note of that.
Alright, cool. And then inside here, public, I'm going to make a constructor, which is just going to take
private section here. Public.
taking a path, that's all we need. I'll make a destructor as well so that we can destroy everything when we need to. A function called bind and unbind, and that's pretty much it. Now, I will make some like helpers here, like get width, for example, which will just return the.
What is this? This is in the .h here. We don't need the actual. Just need the definitions, right? So get rid of this. Constructor here that takes in the path. A destructor makes sense. Texture. Then a bind, just kind of like the other classes we've had to avoid the bind and unbind. Guess we don't really unbind, but it's whatever. I think this is const too. I just don't think he's wrote that.
Width and height, just in
maybe not. Maybe const. I don't know. Maybe it's not const. Let's just leave a note for that. Maybe he's got that wrong or something.
In case we want to get that later. But in general, I like to kind of add these things as I actually need them.
Man, I keep forgetting what inline means, dude. I literally looked this up like 2 days ago. And use primary functions. Hit the compiler for optimization to modify the one definition rule. It's just an optimization thing. I always forget, dude. I'm not a C++ god. Get width const. And we just return m_width, right? Inline int get height const. We return m_height. What's this here? Expected. Am I missing a colon somewhere? Missing a colon in here. Perfect.
Instead of predefining all my class, because otherwise it takes quite a while to just think about, well, I wonder what I want this class to have, when you can just extend it later. Now, bind, I'm going to change a little bit.
So we did miss a const here. That's what I thought was const. Get rid of this.
I'm actually going to put an unsigned in slot equals 0 over here. So what this is an optional parameter. If you don't specify it, it will be 0, which basically allows you to specify the slot that you want to bind the texture to.
Unsigned int slot equal to 0. Default param. Ooh. If anyone has
Now,
any
in
tips on
OpenGL, we
OpenGL,
have
please let me
various
know,
slots
bro.
that we can bind textures to, and the reason that exists is because we have the ability to actually bind more than one texture at once. So on Windows, typically with modern GPUs, you have about 32 texture slots, whereas on mobile, like on an Android or an iPhone, you might have like 8, for example. Again, this really depends on the actual GPU that you have and their implementation.
Slots can be different per GPU. Mobile can have 8. Modern GPU can have roughly 32. I don't know. Just some notes.
Implementation of OpenGL. You can always ask OpenGL, hey, how many texture slots do I have? But just to give you a rough ballpark
I can ask OpenGL number slots.
On modern GPUs, you have about 32. On mobile GPUs, you may have 8. That's roughly what it will be, but of course you can just consult your platform to find out. So I'm going to right click on texture and using Visual Assist just create all of the method implementations. That's just...
I don't think mine does this, dude. I think I gotta set up my shit to do this visual. Was it quick actions? Is that what he did? Yeah, mine doesn't do that stuff, bro. Wish mine did that. What do I do?
Just going to create these implementations.
Let's include texture. Include texture.h. Texture const string path. Texture. Is our destructor here? Cool. And then we have our bind and our unbind. Bind that takes in slots. Write our default parameter here. This is const2. Void texture unbind const. Cool. We got our implementation
my
here.
and all of my methods. I'm going to, in my constructor, assign file path to be path. I want to set, basically initialize most of these things. Local buffer will set to null pointer. Width and height to 0.
I'm still not sure what the local buffer means. I'm not really. I have to probably do some research, but I'm not sure.
And you should really try and do these in the same order they're defined in. Bits per pixel I'll set to 0. And that looks pretty good. So the only thing I really did was, actually I did do it in order. Render ID was the first thing. 0. Alright, cool. So there we go. I'm initializing all of my variables. And then what I'm going to do here is just start loading the texture. So I'm going to use glgen textures. I'm going to generate one texture and assign it to renderer ID. I'm then going to go ahead and bind it. So we bind it by just calling glbind texture. Now we specify kind of like what we do with like our vertex buffer, where we actually bind it, we specify kind of what kind of buffer it is or what slot we're binding it to. So in this case, this is going to be a GL texture 2D because it's just a two-dimensional texture. We might talk about the different texture types in the future when we get to them. Renderer ID is the texture that we're binding. Now let's go ahead and actually load our image. So to do that, we need to include stb image. So I'm just going to type in include stb. Now, of course, this is going to be in vendor/stb image/stb image. If I was actually properly setting up this project, I might have actually included the vendor folder in the include parts for my compiler so that I won't have to kind of do vendor, but this is fine. Now, actually, before we do all of this, let's actually load the image. Now, the first thing I want to do is type in stbi.
I'm gonna quickly go to the bathroom. I'll be back in a second. It's starting to get dark here, man. It gets dark so early, dude. It's crazy. I'm trying to think here. I'm looking at this old Leetcode solution and I'm like, bro, what the fuck is going on here? Oh, okay, I understand. Okay, all right, let's jump back to the video. Okay.
Set, flip, vertically on load. Now the reason we need to do this, and I'm going to just set this to 1. So what this does is actually flips our texture vertically, so it makes it upside down. The reason we need to do this is because OpenGL actually expects our texture pixels to kind of start at the bottom left, not the top left, right? So the bottom left in OpenGL is 0, 0. Now, typically when we load images, like PNG for example, stores it in scan lines kind of from the top of the image to the bottom of the image. So we need to actually flip it on load. This really does depend on your texture format, so definitely take a look at this. For our use case, for our PNG here, we do need to flip it. So just if you see that your texture's upside down or whatever, you can play with this flag to make sure that you get it the right way up. Okay, the next thing we're gonna do is assign mlocal.
Okay, let's just kind of catch up here. So we assign our render ID to be 0. Render ID is 0. M_ file path is our path, right? Initialize a list here, local buffer. Local buffer is null pointer. And our m_width is 0. Height is 0. And our bytes per pixel is 0. Let's load in the image, right? OpenGL uses 0, 0 as, what did you say, bottom? You say bottom left or bottom right?
Buff. You can play with this flag. We do need to flip it. So just if you see that your texture's upside down or whatever, you can play with this flag to make sure that you get it the texture format. So definitely take a look at the bottom of the image. So we stores it in scan lines kind of from the top of the image to the bottom of the image. So we need to actually flip it on load. This really does depend on your texture format, so definitely take a look at this. For our use case, for our PNG here, we do need to flip it. So just if you see that your texture's upside down or whatever, you can play with this flag to make sure that you get it the right way up. Okay, then so it makes it upside down. The reason we need what this does is actually flips our texture vertically, so it makes it upside down. The reason we need to do this is because OpenGL actually expects our texture pixels to kind of start at the bottom left, not the top left, right? So the bottom left in OpenGL is 0, 0. Now, typically when we load images, like PNG for example, stores it in scan lines kind of from the top of the image to the bottom of the image. So we need to actually flip it on load. This really does depend on your texture format, so definitely take a look at this. For our use case, for our PNG here, we do need to flip it. So just if you see that your texture's upside down or whatever.
Look, setting up OpenGL was more infuriating than actually using and debugging it well. Yeah, it is tough. It is
You can
tough.
play with this flag to make sure that you get it the right way up. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is assign mLocalBuffer, which is our local storage for our texture, to be stbi load. Now we're going to have to specify a file name, which is just going to be path.cstring. Then we have pointers to x, y, and channels, which is just going to store all of our actual width and height and all of that. So we've already created variables for this. We just pass in the memory address, and what this stbi load function will do is actually write the width and height and the bits per pixel or whatever into those actual variables for us. So we're passing pointers to these variables so that this function can actually write to them. And desired channels is kind of how many desired channels we have. So we want RGBA, so that's 4. So we're just going to type in 4 like that. Okay, so once we've got this, we've actually got all of our texture.
Okay, so I assume the local buffer here is going to hold the data of the image that we're loading in. So path.c underscore string. The memory address of m underscore width. The memory address of m underscore height. Memory address of m underscore bits per pixel for RGBA. I think that's good. We're also gonna need an image here now that I think about it. I guess we'll wait for that. But are you making your own OpenGL wrapper for object-oriented programming? Because you're using bare OpenGL with no wrappers, it's gonna make you go crazy. Yeah. Well, dude, honestly, right now, you know, I just started learning OpenGL. I've never done any, you know, GPU programming before in my life, so you know, I'm watching Cherno's series just to kind of build a foundation, really. And to answer the second part of your question, you making your own OpenGL wrapper for object-oriented programming. I mean, not really. I'm not making my own, but I'm just trying to, you know, get an understanding of OpenGL and kind of how it works. You know, learn a little bit. I feel like Cherno's series is, you know, from what I've read on the internet, pretty good. So, and from what I've had so far, it's been pretty good. Just like learning about kind of how everything works. And once I'm done with this series, I plan to build some sort of probably another 2D game on stream. That's probably the goal. Kind of start low, start with like a 2D game, something very simple, something interactive. I don't know, and kind of build from there. Hopefully, then go to 3D. But I feel like 3D is a big jump in terms of the math and stuff. So, you know, I have a linear algebra background in college, but honestly, I did it like 4 years ago, so I forgot a lot. So I have to do a little bit of a refresher and everything. But, you know, just kind of taking baby steps. You know what I mean? So that's kind of the goal here. So, but yeah, hopefully that answers your question. Let's just, I think when he does the GL gen textures here, I think this should be the binding code. I don't know why he's putting this here. I feel like the binding code should be in the bind section, right? I mean, I don't know, but renderer ID, GL bind texture. Are you making your own wrapper for object hunter because you, yeah. 2D. This is the binding here. Binding.
Data inside this local buffer here. What I need to do now is set up some actual settings, I guess, for our texture that we've just generated here. So the way that we set any texture parameter is we call GL text parameter, and then the type of data we're trying to set. So this is going to be an I for integer. So the first parameter here is the target, which is texture 2D. The next slot is the actual parameter name, which in this case is going to be GL texture min filter. So this is the minification filter. This is how our texture will actually be resampled down if it needs to be rendered smaller than it is kind of per pixel. We're gonna have an in-depth episode on all of these kind of texture parameters because like dealing with bitmaps and kind of minification and magnification filtering and like, you know, edge clamping and all of that is a kind of a big topic, then I don't want to just squeeze it in here. So we will talk about this stuff in more detail in the future, don't worry, but for now you can just kind of use these settings and I'll explain them as I go. So this we're going to set to GL linear, which is just going to linearly resample everything, so it will kind of still look okay. It's not going to snap to the nearest pixel, which is what GL nearest would do. We also have to specify the magnification filter, which is if we actually kind of render our texture on an area that is larger in pixels than the actual texture size, so it needs to scale it up. We also need to specify the clamp modes, so GL text parameter I, GL texture 2D, GL texture wrap. Now I call them clamp modes, but they're really wrap modes. So wrap S is the horizontal wrap, so we want it to clamp, which means that we want it to basically not extend the area. The other option is tiling. So we don't want to tile our textures here. So S and T is kind of like X and Y, but for textures. And these 4 parameters you need to specify. If you don't specify these 4 parameters, you're just going to get like a black texture, which is a little bit annoying because you kind of expect them to maybe be on sensible defaults.
Must specify 4 parameters, black screen. I'm a little confused by this method call. I don't really know what this stuff is doing.
So make sure you specify these 4, otherwise you may and probably will get a black texture, but of course that does depend on your OpenGL implementation. Okay, cool. Next step.
Yeah, I'm a little confused about this GL text parameter. Probably have to look up the documentation. I don't really understand kind of what's happening here. Texture underscore 2D. Underscore texture, underscore min, underscore filter. GL underscore linear. Oh, GL underscore texture. Compact underscore filter. Then we got wrap S, wrap T. Wrap underscore T. GL linear, and we need a GL clamp here. GL clamp. Okay, I'm gonna take a look here at this. GL parameter I. Filtering what OpenGL does when the texture is smaller or larger than the pixels on the screen. Image is shrunk, minified. Or the interrelation between pixels. Mag filter, what happens when the image is enlarged, magnified. Okay, so smooth, blurry instead of blocky. High texture handles UV corners outside the 0-1 range. How to sample when zoomed in, zoomed out, min mag filters, how to handle coordinates outside bounds. Okay, interesting. Okay, so these 4 parameters must be done.
It's going to be to actually give OpenGL the data that we've read in here. So we've got a bunch of pixel data inside mlocal buffer. Let's actually send it now to OpenGL. So the way that we do that is via an OpenGL called GL text image 2D. So the target is going to be GL texture 2D. The level, this is at this point you probably want to read the documentation to figure out what all of these are. A lot of these are completely irrelevant to us. I'm going to kind of skip past that. We will look at advanced textures in the future, so we'll cover them then. But for now we want the level to be 0 because this is not a multi-level texture. Internal format is going to be GL RGBA. That's how OpenGL is going to see our actual format, RGBA. Not the format of the data we're supplying, but how we want OpenGL to deal with our data. Internal format versus format is a huge topic in itself, which we'll probably even dedicate an episode to because people confuse that all the time. But internal format, which is the first format, that's how OpenGL will store your texture data. Whereas format is the format of the data you're providing OpenGL with. So in other words, the format of mlocal buffer. Now, in recent implementations of OpenGL, you should actually call this GL RGB A8, okay? So you should be specifying the actual bits per channel, which is how you want OpenGL to store your texture. So GLRGBA is kind of deprecated. It will still work on most implementations, but technically the correct modern OpenGL way to do this is actually to specify a number here, which says how many bits you have per channel. Alright, so width is going to be mWidth, which is what we read in from our stbi load function. Then we pass in mHeight for the height of our texture. Border, we definitely don't want a border, so 0 pixel border. So format is, that's like the second format, so that's the format of the data we're supplying. GLRGBA is what it is.
Image 2D. Target texture. As far as the level of detail number, level 0 is the base image level, level N is the bitmap reduction image. Okay, I'm not sure what that means to be honest, but specify the number of color components in the texture must be one of the base internal formats given in table 1. Given in table 2. Width. It must be 0. Suppose the format of the pixel data, the following are accepted. Specify the data type of the pixel data, the following values are accepted. Specify the pointer to the image data in memory.
We don't use numbers here. The type is the type of data, so unsigned byte, right? So we have GLRGBA, and each one of these channels is an unsigned byte. And then finally we have a pointer to pixels. Now you can make this, you can actually pass in a null pointer here or 0 or something like that if you're not ready at this stage to actually give OpenGL your data. What that means is that you're just allocating space on the GPU because it knows how much space it needs, but you're not actually providing it with data. Now we already have the data, so we're just going to pass in mlocal buffer, just like that.
Okay, let's do this call here. GL text image 2D. Ooh, did I do it wrong? GL text. Oh, is it text? Text image 2D. GL underscore texture underscore 2D. The level is 0. Not sure what that means. We're going to stick with 0 for now. GL, what's this? Internal format. GL underscore RGBA8. M underscore width. M underscore height. What are we at now? The border. The border is always 0. The format here. GL RGBA. GL underscore unsigned bytes, and then a pointer to our buffer. Texture 2D. Man, this API is huge. Holy shit. It's crazy how big it is.
Alright, great. And that's really all we need.
What's up, Ryan,
so what
dude? How you doing?
Is unbind our texture by just calling GL bind texture 0. Could also call the unbind texture function. Well, we of course need to specify what we want to unbind, so GL texture 2D. Since I've got this code here, I'm just going to copy and paste this into unbind as well, because that's really all we need. Cool. So now what we
setting 0 on bind, right? GL bind texture underscore texture underscore 2D 0. What are we missing here? Target texture. missing something here. Oh, I'm gonna sneeze, dude. How's your job going on? Dude, I haven't started yet. I don't start till January 5th. Pretty excited though. I mean, I started in about 7 weeks. I'm still finishing up my last semester at uni, so I graduate here in about a month and a bit. Actually, no, I graduate here in, I think, dude, like less than a month, so about 4 weeks. So why is your watching less than usual? I mean, probably because I had a clickbait title before. You know, programming every day until you get a job is a pretty clickbait title. I think a lot of people join because of the clickbait title. I don't really have a clickbait title anymore. I mean, my title's pretty basic stuff. It's just, you know, learning OpenGL or, you know, working on whatever project work I'm doing. So, you know, I think that's probably why. I remember, like, I mean, it was about 2 months ago since I got a job, about a month and a half ago, right? I mean, bro, the people that were joining, there was like, man, sometimes I'd have like 50, 60 people on the live stream, bro. It was like insane. But it's like, you know, I think kind of after you kind of achieve the goal, you know, I don't have really the clickbait streams anymore, so, or the clickbait titles, I guess. Even though it wasn't meant to be clickbait, I think what I realize now after that is that the title was kind of clickbait, you know, like program every day until I get a job. I was at like 220 or something. I don't think I've seen anyone go that high, so, you know, people just kind of wanted to, you know, kind of see where I was at, so. When are you planning your vlog? Dude. Good thing you asked me this, bro. Like, so I was editing the vlog. I was editing the vlog when I was out at the hackathon at San Francisco, and I was editing it. And I have a fucking lot of footage, and I just didn't want to edit it, dude. I just wanted to work on my projects, dude. It was like, fuck, man, I don't want to edit this. I just want to, like, you know, write my code and work on my projects and stuff. That's what interests me the most. So I haven't really been working on it since. So I remember once you had more than 100 viewers. Yeah, dude. I know. Sometimes it got fucking crazy. I don't understand how I had so many people, but, you know, it is what it is. I kind of knew that it was probably gonna, you know, after I got a job, it was probably gonna kind of, come down a little bit. And, you know, because people, I mean, I'm not, you know, I'm not streaming every single day till I get a job anymore. So it's like, but yeah, I don't know. I don't really do it for the, you know, for the viewers and stuff like that. I kind of, to be honest, I kind of enjoy it when there's about, I mean, what is it now? There's like 5 people watching. Yeah, usually it's between like 5 and 10 usually that watch. So, you know, I'm pretty happy with that. So it doesn't really bother me. It's more about like this channel, and it'll always be this channel. This channel is more about like documenting the progress, right? So, you know, I don't stream every day anymore. I stream probably like about, I'd say, what, 2 to 4 times a week, right? But it's, you know, more about, you know, the whole point of this channel is about documenting the progress and, you know, yeah, kind of seeing where I come from. You know, you look back on the channel a year from now, which the channel is about a year old now. I posted my first episode of Programming Every Day about a year ago, but, you know, it's more about, you know, seeing the progress, right? Seeing where you came from, and that's kind of what I do it for. So, and I plan to keep doing it. I plan to keep going. Like, even when I start my job here in January, like, I plan to keep working on stuff and keep streaming at night. So that's the goal. But, you know, I plan to hopefully after, you know, I'm interested in OpenGL, some graphics programming, learning right now. Hopefully I can, my goal is, you know, to build Minecraft, to build a Minecraft clone. I know that sounds cliche and every single developer wants to build a Minecraft clone, but that's the goal. And then I kind of want to work on, you know, maybe a game of my own, you know, like, but I need to obviously get the knowledge and stuff, but it's like, you know, build something and, you know, put it on the Steam store or something like that, you know, so that's the goal. Obviously, that's a long way from now. I mean, you got to learn the fundamentals, and that's what I'm doing right now. But, you know, that's the goal. You know, I plan to, you know, keep streaming and keep showing the progress and, you know, document the journey. You know, because I feel like, if I can do it, anyone can do it. You know, I'm an average dude, so it's like, you know, that's the goal for the channel.
What we can do is if and local buffer, right? So if this buffer does actually contain data, we're going to use stbi image free to actually free this local buffer. Now in more complicated setups, you may want to retain a copy of the pixel data on your CPU because you might want to sample it or do something, whatever you may want to do with that data. So that's totally perfectly okay as well. Totally perfectly okay. That's also kind of acceptable.
Just wanted to give my update. Won a hackathon, participated on one more, got 2 internship offers, and currently I have 10 GPA. Dude, that's fucking dope, dude. That's awesome. 2 internship offers. That's great, man. I mean, just keep working hard, bro. You know, that's the goal. I mean, you keep grinding, bro. You keep working hard. Like, you know, good things happen. So, you know, that's great. I'm sure that's awesome, dude. Just keep expanding your knowledge, bro. Keep working on personal projects. Keep working on things that interest you. And, you know, whatever the project is, doesn't really matter what it is, man. Anything looks good. So it's like, you can build stuff like, you know, usually most stuff transfers. So keep grinding though, dude. I'm really happy for you, dude. I'm happy to kind of, I remember when we were talking when I first started streaming, you know, back over the summer, what, 4 months ago or something. You know, you were still learning HTML. So, you know, I mean, like, let's go, dude. You come a long way, dude. It's pretty dope. So really happy for you. You know, you really did help me by suggesting Angela Yu's course. Yeah, dude, it helped me a lot too. So yeah, you should. I mean, anyone, again, like anyone that you know, anyone that asks you, you know, for help, like recommend them. You're the best channel I've come around on YouTube. Oh, dude, I appreciate it, dude. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. That's really nice of you to say. Thank you so much, bro. I appreciate you sticking around too, and you know, I appreciate you jumping in the streams and saying hello. So thank you for that too. But yeah, dude, if other people come up to you and they kind of want help too, just recommend them that course, bro. I'm telling you, that course is so good, bro. Like, it's probably the best $15 anyone can spend, I think. Like, really teaches you a lot. So, but yeah, I appreciate that comment though, dude. Thank you so much.
Acceptable, right? So you may want to have something in the constructor that's like, you know, keep local data around or something like that. We don't really care about that, so I'm just freeing it, but that's why I kind of made this a member variable and local buffer in case you kind of want to store it. And that's it. Now finally, over here inside our destructor, we could delete the data. Now we've already freed the data in the constructor, so we don't have.
Let's free this data here. _local buffer. Stood by _image, so we free the image from memory. _local buffer. Free image from memory. I always try to attend your stream, but the timing kills me. But I'll try to attend more frequently. Sounds good, dude. Appreciate you being around. I plan when I do start my job in January. You know, I assume I'm going to be working a 9 to 5, so I'll probably be doing a little bit more later streams. So right now it's 4:30 for me right now. So, you know, when I start my job in January and I start getting in a little bit of a routine, I think what I'm going to do is I'm literally going to stream at the exact same time every day. So I think the goal is I'm going to stream probably 6 to 8 p.m. Central Time is probably the plan. So I might even do streams every day again. I don't know. It just depends. Right now, the reason why I don't stream every day is because, sorry, what am I doing here? Central Time. Yeah, the reason why I don't stream every day now is because I have class like really late. And I did do that when I was doing the Programming Every Day series, but I'm not programming every day anymore. So usually when I stream, right now, I stream Monday, Thursdays is when I stream right now. And then I stream also like on the weekend, just kind of whenever I feel like it. But the goal is when I start, it's 4:19 p.m. for me right now, Central Time. The goal is I'm probably going to stream at the same time every day, probably 6 to 8, I would say. I think is the goal, just kind of working on projects and, you know, learning other stuff. So that's the goal. But hopefully that timing's better for you. I don't know, but
to deal with that here. But we do need to actually GL delete textures to delete our actual texture from.
So we need to delete the textures in the destructor. So GL delete textures. 1
on the GPU when this object gets destroyed. So we'll just GL delete textures and pass in that renderer ID. Now bind is an interesting function because we already know how to bind textures. It's really just this, right? But what we can do here is actually specify a texture slot, and we do that by typing in GL call GL active texture. Now active texture takes in an integer, which is
It's 3:50 a.m. for me. Oh shit. Okay. It's time. Yeah, that would be perfect. Yeah, so I'll be streaming later. So hopefully that helps. So
GL enum, which is going to be which texture slot we're currently activating. So again, this is kind of like the whole state machine selecting thing in OpenGL. We basically say, hey, I'm gonna make GL active texture slot 16. That means that the next texture that I bind will be bound to slot 16 until I call GL active texture again with a different slot. So in this case, the way that we specify slots is we use enums, right? So GL texture 0 like that is the very first slot. Now we have texture 1, texture 2, whatever. If you actually look at what these are equal to, they are of course just integers, and they go all the way up to 31, right? So you have 32 texture slots. Now this does not mean that your platform supports that many textures, it's just 32 happens to be the maximum that the OpenGL specification allows. Your platform, as I said, mobile may have like 8, so you should query and find out how many you have if you are going to use this many texture slots, which you probably usually won't be unless you're making a really big game, because there are ways to kind of, you know, reuse textures, and we'll talk about that later. But anyway, we have all these texture slots. Now in this case, we are specifying an unsigned int. Now this will be something like 0 through to 31. So what you can do is just type in GL texture 0 plus slot, and then it will add the slot, because if you look at these definitions, you can see that they are actually consecutive numbers, right? They do just count up. So that's our entire texture class. That is all that we. They do just count up. So that's our entire.
Let's take a look here at the bind. So this is simple here. GL. I mean, we can just copy the code up here. GL bind texture, right? So this unbinds it. And a bind here. We go GL active texture. GL underscore texture 0 plus slots. That makes sense. Up to 32 slots. GL bind texture. We can just take this code up here. GL bind texture. GL texture 2D, and then we want our m underscore renderer ID. Mr. Tolley, yo, study buddy. I'm also learning algorithms and data structures for my midterm. Let's go, dude. Algorithms, data structures, man. That's dope, dude. Good luck on it, though. Hang on, I'm gonna turn on the light in my room. It's starting to get dark. Oh, I need a little bit of light in here, bro. Yeah, good luck with that midterm, bro. So we set our active texture to be the slot that we're looking for. The default parameter here is 0. GL texture 0 plus slot. We bind the texture, so we want m underscore render ID, so we're using this object here. GL gen textures, so this returns a renderer ID, right? Returns an int. No. So I think this is a void function, but I think this assigns the renderer ID here. The bind texture? No, that's void too. So I think this function here assigns, instead of 0, it assigns the renderer ID here. So yeah, I think that's what it does. I think it's a void function, but it's still. Congrats on your sweet roll. Are you learning OpenGL for it? No, dude. OpenGL is just something that I'm interested in. So, just learning it myself. Yeah, dude, something I'm interested in. But yeah, I start full-time work in January, dude. So, you know, like what I said, I plan to keep streaming after work. So, that's the goal. Kind of working on my projects and working on things I'm interested in. So that's the goal. But yeah, appreciate it. Thank you for the comment, dude.
Texture class. That is all that we need to actually give OpenGL our texture and for us to render it and all of that. Alright, so I knew this was going to be a long episode, but let's keep going and let's actually see something on the screen because that is the goal for today's video. So, back inside application, let's set all of this up. So I'm going to, at any point really, just type in texture. I'm going to give it the path, which is res/textures/chernologo.png. I'm going to include texture up the top because I haven't done that yet.
Let's, we need to create this folder here. So what does he have it in? Res/textures. I guess I didn't do that, so let's create that here. src res, what does he have? A folder /textures. So res, let's create a new folder. Let's call this textures. Let's grab like a texture off the internet. Dirt block, Minecraft texture. Let's render a dirt block to the screen, bro. Let's grab the texture file, find it on the internet somewhere. Oh shit! What is this bullshit on my screen, dude? The fuck? I'm an adult, okay. Let's find sentiment. Grass block, here we go. Can we download it? View source. Dude, give me this PNG, bro. How does this work? Is there a download, dude? Oh, bro, dude. Okay, let's just take this off Planet Minecraft, download texture pack. Where can I find Minecraft textures? Blocks. Dude. Man, how do I find where to find this? I'm trying to find a texture to load. I kind of want to load like something like this, but default texture package inside the Minecraft.jar file. You already have a copy. I don't even think I have Minecraft installed on my computer. Oops, percent app data, percent. Very cool. Thank you, bro. Blockbench default pack. Jeez, man, I'm gonna sneeze, dude. Okay. So I was in the right area. versions. Oh shit, dude, I actually need WinRAR on my computer, dude. Fuck, now I gotta install WinRAR, bro. Oh my gosh. Let me install WinRAR really quick. Oh, dude. Oh. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. So now we go WinRAR. Now we can open this. Open with WinRAR. Okay. Go to our assets here. Minecraft. Textures. Blocks. Where's dirt? Dirt.png. Okay, let's grab this file here. Perfect. Let's go to cdev. OpenGL. Res. Textures. Perfect. Here's our texture, bro. Beautiful dirt PNG, dude. Straight from Minecraft type shit. Let's go. Okay. Perfect. Okay. Perfect. So we got these textures. Let's load them in. So we pass in res/textures/dirt.png. Oh, we need to include this. Let's include textures.h. Okay, cool.
PNG. I'm going to include texture up the top because I haven't done that yet. And scrolling back down, I'm going to bind my texture. I'm not going to pass in a parameter, which means it's going to be equal to 0 by default. One thing I need to do, by the way, with
texture.bind
my shaders before I forget, is we need to first of all fix out this awful error I made last time, in which I passed in and, well, basically I make this map have an unsigned int, and I use unsigned int a bit too much, it seems, because this getUniformLocation function, I even check to see if the location is -1 here, because that's totally valid. That just means that it couldn't find our uniform. But I'm assigning it to an unsigned int here, which is obviously never going to be -1. So all of this should be an int, not an unsigned int. When you're dealing with uniform locations in OpenGL, the type is a 32-bit integer, okay? So int, and this should also be int. And if we go back to our header file, this should be int, because that's our uniform cache. And also, this should be int. And I think that's all the ints. If I compile this, hopefully it'll work. And yep, we're all good. Okay, that's one thing I need to clear up. Now, one thing that we need to do is we need to actually tell our shader which texture slot to sample from. And the way that we do that is via a uniform. Now, this isn't really an int.
How do you like OpenGL so far? Yeah, it's good. You know, I'm just learning right now. It hasn't been too crazy yet, I don't think. But then again, I am doing everything in 2D. But I think as soon as I move to something in 3D, like probably within a month or maybe 2 months, whenever I, you know, build that progress, it'll probably be something different. But yeah, the goal is, I mean, I go on holidays with my family December 18th, so in about a month. The goal is to finish this series and hopefully maybe have some sort of project in 2D. And then probably as soon as I come back and I start work, probably in the evenings, I'm going to be learning, you know, 3D development, trying to build stuff in 3D. Hopefully build a Minecraft clone. You know, that's the goal. So, a lot to learn, but, you know, baby steps and kind of progressing. And that's what I plan to do. I plan to, you know, document the whole process here on YouTube and kind of see what happens. So, yeah. What about you? How do you like OpenGL?
Integer slot. It's something called a sampler slot, and this is a bit hazy and a bit weird. Basically, what we need to do is send an integer uniform to our shader, and that integer is the slot that we've bound a texture to.
I want to restart this. This was a little probably important.
And the way that we do that is via a uniform. Now, this isn't really an slot. Also, and we're all good. Okay, that's one thing I need to clear up. Now, one thing that we need to do is we need to actually tell our shader which texture slot to sample from. And the way that we do that is via a uniform. Now, this isn't really an integer slot. It's something called a sampler slot, and this is a bit hazy and a bit weird. Basically, what we need to do is send an integer uniform to our shader, and that integer is the slot that we've bound a texture to that we want to sample from. And then in the shader code, we can actually use that sampler or that integer that we've passed in to actually sample that texture and do what we want with it. Okay, so that's how that works. So to do that, we need to write another shader uniform function here, which is going to be called setUniform1i, which is for integer, and then we take in int value like that. I'll 1i, which is for integer, and then we take in int.
OpenGL is good, but it has some limitations which Vulkan has addressed. Okay, fair enough. How long have you been doing OpenGL for? Have you built anything cool in terms of projects or anything, or curious to know kind of your progress and how you progressed. Let's go to my shader here, shader.cpp. Void setter set uniform 4. So this is a template. Set uniform is 4F. I guess I didn't do this one here. Might as well. It's not a template, but okay. So C string. Well, this is where I made the template, but float value. Void set uniform 1i for integer. Const string reference name. Reference name. Int value.
Int value like that. I'll copy and
need to implement both these functions here that I missed. Void shader. Actually, I can just copy this, to be honest. Grab this. Shader set uniform 1F. We take one float so we can get rid of all this crap. Float value. Shader get uniform 1F. Get uniform location. Yeah. No, not GL. GL uniform 1F. Oh, uniform 1F. Get uniform location. Where is my... What is going on here? Get uniform location. Okay. It's not suggesting it, dude. I don't know why, but... Alright. Value. What is wrong here? Am I missing something here? What am I missing here? GL get uniform location is undefined. What? what is going on here? Bro, what is going on here, dude? Why is this undefined? I think I first learned it back in like 08 or something, but didn't really get serious with it until like 2018 until I became my job. Oh fuck, okay. Fair enough. Yeah, it's been interesting. I mean, this is my first sort of graphics programming at all, so I'm trying to kind of understand why is this not working? We're in the shader CPP. Okay, I don't know. What did I have there? Bro, what? Okay, I guess it's just fucking the shit being weird or something. I don't know. Void shader. I guess we can just copy this. What is this one gonna be? Set uniform 1i. Okay, yeah, this takes something different, right? Const string and an int value. Underscore, will it be Linux compatible? Set uniform 1F or set uniform 1F. Hey, I see OpenGL. Yeah, guys, what's up? Appreciate you guys joining. Oh, yeah, it was the underscore. Yeah, fuck. Is what it is, dude. But yeah, is it gonna be Linux compatible? I haven't really thought about that, to be honest, but probably not. I mean, I'm just learning right now, so there's nothing being built anyway, so it doesn't have to be Linux compatible, but just kind of trying to load some textures on the screen, so. Sorry, not underscore, I meant to say lowercase. Oh, okay. That's okay. Appreciate the help, though. But yeah, you got it.
Paste this 1f function and replace this with int, and that's pretty much it, right? Just make sure you replace uniform 1f here with 1i. Okay, cool. Back to application. So now that we have this, we can actually set that up as well. So shader.setUniform1i, we're going to call this uniform u underscore texture, and we're going to set it to 0, okay?
So we set the uniform here. So we can bind it inside the shader here. 1i. Looking for u underscore texture 0.
Because we've bound our texture to slot 0. So that 0 needs to match whatever you're passing in here. If I had passed in like texture bind 2 or something to slot 2, we would be passing in 2 here. Okay, let's undo.
Bind value to what was it called, dude? Oh my gosh. Slot. Okay.
Do that. All right, cool. So there we go. Pretty simple stuff. Now, one thing we haven't done is actually created something called texture coordinates. So what we need to do is actually use something called a texture coordinate system to tell our geometry that we're rendering which part of the texture to sample from. So our pixel shader goes through and renders and rasterizes our rectangle, right? It just goes through the rectangle and draws every pixel. The pixel shader or the fragment shader is responsible for determining the color of each pixel. So what we actually need to do is somehow, when it's up to rendering a certain pixel, tell it to sample a certain area of our texture to retrieve what color the pixel should be, right? If you think about it, it's actually kind of simple. It's not too complicated to understand. Hopefully this makes sense. If you don't, drop a comment below and I might make a detailed kind of in-depth video on how the rasterization works and how texture sampling works and all of that stuff. But basically what I'm saying is we need to say that, hey, the bottom left of our rectangle on our screen is like coordinates.
Hey Chaos TV, if you're still here, bro, what What do you work on OpenGL? Hey, yo, what's up? What's up, Crosshair Hero? Appreciate you joining. You work at a games company or?
0, 0, and the top, like right, is the other end of the texture, which in OpenGL terms is going to be 1, 1. Okay, because textures we don't really tie textures to certain sizes, or we don't tie texture coordinates to a certain resolution because the texture could be.
That was some good information. Let me go back a little bit.
Of our rectangle on our screen is like coordinate 0, 0, and the top, like right, is the other end of the texture, which in OpenGL terms is going to be 1, 1. Okay, because textures we don't really tie textures to certain sizes, or we don't tie texture coordinates to a certain resolution because the texture could be 64 by 64, it could be 1024 by 1024, it could be like 57 by 19, it could be anything, right? So what we need to do is basically specify for each vertex that we have of our rectangle what area of the texture it should be. And then the fragment shader will interpolate between that so that if we're rendering a pixel that's like halfway between two vertices, it will pick the texture coordinate that's like, you know, halfway between the two vertices. So let's set that up. So to do that, if we
That
come
sounded
over
a little
here
bit
to our
confusing
positions,
there,
we know
but
this one is the bottom left. So that's
molecular visualization, protein and chemical structures, etc. Okay, that's dope. That's cool.
going to be 0 by 0. I'm adding another vec2 basically. I'm adding 2 more floats to each vertex here, which are our texture coordinates. Now this is going to be 1.0, 0.0 because it's the right side, right? So 0.5f is the rightmost edge of our actual rectangle. And so I'm setting that to be 1, which means sample from the right side of the texture. This is going to be 1.0 when 1.0 as well. 0.5, 0.5 is the top right, and that's what we're also matching with our texture coordinate. And then finally we have 0 and 1.0. Now we need to add this to our...
Okay, let's edit this. So in here I have squares and colors, so this is going to be interesting. I'll have to figure this out, but let's add these here. Let's add our textures here. Are you doing a project with OpenGL? Yeah, I do. I do plan to do a project with OpenGL, just not yet. Just trying to build kind of like the fundamentals and stuff like that. So, yeah. 0.0f, 0.0f. 0.0f, 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 0.0f. Okay, am I missing a comma anywhere? Why do I have an error here? Missing a comma here. Okay. Alright.
Our vertex buffer layout. Again, with our API, it's really easy. We just do this, layout.push, 2 more floats.
What do we have here? We had 3 for each, 3, 3. Layout.push floats 2. This is for the texture coordinates.
Right, that's it. That's all we need to do. We also need to actually expand this vertex buffer to contain these extra things, right? So now instead of having 2 floats per vertex,
we don't have to change that. Mine's different. Mine's... Where am I doing that? VB, yes, size of square verts.
We actually have 4 floats per vertex, so we'll increase this to 4. And finally, we need to go into our shader and basically rewrite the whole thing. So, in our vertex shader, we now take in a texture coordinate at location 1, which is a vec2. I'll call it, I don't know, text coord.
So location 1, we take in a we take in a color. Where's my application here? So I think I'm gonna have to change something here. Let's go to layout here. Where's my shader? Yeah, I think it should be the next location, right? Because that's how it works, right? In RPG, I think it takes the next location. So I think it should be 2 here, because when we assign it in vec 2,
something like that. And now
text chord.
Now we're faced with something a little bit new. We need to get this texture coordinate into our actual fragment shader, because check this out. The way that we're going to actually sample our texture is, as I said earlier, by using that sampler 2D uniform, right? So sampler 2D, you
Very brave doing something different than tutorial video. Yeah, I mean, trying to learn, you know, I don't just want to follow the tutorial, you know, I just want to kind of figure out how to do my stuff.
By using that, check this out. The way that we're going to actually sample our texture is, as I said earlier, by using...
I feel like you learn more too when you kind of go off on a little bit on your own too.
Using that sampler 2D uniform, right?
Yeah, I need to
get
go
the
back
text chord or something like that. And now we're faced with something a little bit new. We need to get this texture coordinate into our actual fragment shader, because check this out. The way that we're going to actually sample our texture is, as I said earlier, by using that sampler 2D uniform, right? So sampler 2D U underscore texture, which is the uniform that we set over here, we set it to be 0, right? So we need to sample this somehow.
In vec3 v color, out vec4. So he's using the uniform here. I'm not using that, but I think I'll just kind of go with what he has. I'll have to debug it. Sampler 2D U texture.
And that's this U texture uniform. And the way that we do that is we actually work out the color. This returns a vec4, which is kind of like our text color. I'll just write this out for you guys. Text color is going to be texture, the texture that we're sampling, which is U texture, and then we need to specify those texture coordinates, right? So how do we actually specify our texture coordinates? Because they're in the vertex shader. So the way that we kind of send data between the vertex and the fragment shader is by something called a varying. Now, in modern OpenGL, this is kind of the in and out system that we...
Holy shit, bro, this got so confusing at the end, bro. Oh my gosh. You missed all the shots you don't take, Michael Scott. Yeah. Most learning is when things go wrong, you gotta figure out why. Agree with that. Yeah, definitely. I'm getting confused now at the end here, dude.
That we're already used to. Similarly to how we can actually input data into the vertex shader by typing in
text color, texture, U, text chords. Okay, alright, we'll keep this
in, and also output data from the fragment shader by typing in out. We can also output data from the vertex shader into the fragment shader. And the way that we do that is we type in out. Now this is going to be a vec2, of course, it's our texture coordinate, and I'll call this v underscore text chord. V stands for varying, which is what this is called. And then I'll assign v text chord to be the text chord that we take in.
Text chord. He's got texture, U texture, text chords here. I don't know if this is wrong. I think this is meant to be text chord here. Have you already taken a look on the GPU pipeline? Bro, all I've done so far is I've just been watching channel series. I've read a little bit of OpenGL.com. And I've been watching his series, so that's all the knowledge I have in OpenGL right now. So I'm just trying to, learn as much as possible, and then hopefully translate these skills here from this tutorial about loading textures, things like that, into an actual game that I'm gonna build on stream once I'm done with this series. So probably start with something 2D, like what I said, and then I'm gonna move into something 3D. Probably build a Minecraft clone or something in 3D. That's kind of the goal. So.
from our vertex buffer. And then similarly in the fragment shader, I'm going to type in invec2 v underscore text coord, just like that.
I think invec2 v underscore text coord. I have to study these shaders a little more, I think. Alt vec4 frag color.
And I'm going to use that text coord over here so that we actually...
I'm still a little confused with shaders, bro. Like, shaders confuse the shit out of me. Do you have an idea of what 2D game you're gonna make? Not yet. I built a earlier when I was streaming over the summer. I built a what did I build? A top-down balloon shooter game over the summer using STL3. I don't know exactly, but I'll think of something. But I'm gonna build something. Maybe like a, I don't know. I'll think of something. You should check out the GPU pipeline, mate. There you see a good visualization of the shaders. Okay, I'll do that. Appreciate that. GPU pipeline. I'll take a look at this, do some research, but I'll do that off camera. I'm gonna finish this episode and kind of
sample that specific texture coordinate, because remember, this fragment shader runs for every pixel, so we need to know the precise location in the texture to actually look up so that we can draw that pixel from the texture in our actual scene. And that's what this whole sampling thing is about. Again, I'm sure we'll discuss this in the future in more depth. Okay, cool. So now instead of assigning this to U color, I'm going to assign this to text color, which is our actual texture lookup color. And everything.
Okay. I'm gonna need to go back to this, bro. I think before I run it, I'm gonna have to do some research here. I'm gonna just write down kind of what he has. I think I need to learn a little bit more about the GPU pipeline, like what LXVRO says. I'm getting a little bit confused with these shaders now that we have texture coordinates in here. So I think I need to sit down and kind of
it looks pretty good
figure it out.
Now, I did write a lot of code and I'm not sure if this will work because I haven't even run this program once, but let's just hit F5 and who knows, maybe this will just be beautiful. Okay, so we get a nice little OpenGL error here. If we look at the actual console, we can see it's a 1280. This is because this is not GL clamp, it's supposed to be GL clamp to edge in more modern versions, so we'll just set
texture CPP. Texture, let's go on clamp, let's go to edge. It's a GL, whoops. GL clamp to edge, whoops, what am I doing? GL underscore clamp underscore to underscore edge.
Set this to be GL clamp to edge. Now, one other thing that I noticed when I was debugging this as well is the local buffer.
I joined your Discord. Feel free to hit me up if you ever have a question. Okay, thank you, bro. I definitely will, bro. Appreciate it. Can I push the link here? I mean, I don't know if YouTube lets you. I have no idea. You can join the Discord below, LXVRO, and you can just DM it to me on Discord. I'd love, honestly, some resources. Also, K-Hearts, if you had any resources, just, you know, send me a link on Discord. I really would appreciate that. So, thank you.
It was actually null, which means we're not loading this in correctly. So let me just refresh this and figure out what's going on with our actual texture. So if I just refresh this, it doesn't look like we've actually got the textures in here for some reason. And that's of course because this resources folder wasn't inside my project directory. Make sure you put it into your project directory. Now if I hit this refresh button, you'll see we have textures in here and all of that. So this should work better now. Let's hit F5, take 2. All right, beautiful. So we see the Cherno logo. Now it looks like absolute trash. Why does my logo look like trash? Well, I don't know if I should end this on a cliffhanger or if I should actually finish this. I know why it's not working, obviously, but This could be fun. You know what? I usually would leave this on a cliffhanger, but this is just such a beautifully long episode that I think we might as well finish it. It's because I don't have blending enabled. And of course, as you saw, that Cherno logo did have areas of transparency. So there's no transparency being rendered right now.
Okay, I'm gonna F5 and run mine, bro. It's for sure not gonna work, but I'm just curious to see like what happens. Okay, yeah. There you go. You get an error. Yeah. Anyway, I gotta look at the shader here. And I definitely will.
Blending at all. That's why it's coming out weird. To fix that, we just need to set up our blending function and enable blending. There will be an episode on blending and transparency in the future, 100% guarantee that. Let's just make this work now for the time being. So if I close this and I go back into my application, or in fact into my render, I think, did I do kind of OpenGL setup stuff in the renderer? I don't think I did. No, I didn't. Okay, so we'll do this in the application file for now. What I'm going to do is scroll up here. Once I have my OpenGL context, it's kind of part of the OpenGL initialization, I guess. I'm going to set up GL blend func. So I'm going to set a blending function, and this is going to be GL source alpha. Not source 0 alpha, GL source alpha, and GL1 minus source alpha. So what we're doing here is we're basically defining how OpenGL is going to blend alpha pixels, right? So this really does require its own episode, but essentially we're saying that for the source, take the source alpha, and when you're trying to render something on top of that, take 1 minus that source alpha, which will basically get the difference of that. So it's just really it really is just a mathematical equation, like literally 1 minus the source alpha is what the destination alpha is going to end up being. Again, episode on that in the future. And then finally, we do need to also enable blending by calling GL enable and then GL blend. Okay, and you can do this in any order, doesn't really matter. I kind of like doing it in this order just because we enable blending and then we kind of set up the blend function. Let's hit F5 and we should see a beautiful logo. And you can see, there we go. Now, of course, it does look a bit stretched because the rectangle that we're rendering is not square because our window is not square, and this is kind of based on window positions. But if you can kind of get over that, you can see that we have a beautiful Cherno logo rendering, and that is how we use textures in OpenGL. If you have any questions about textures that you want answered, leave a comment below because I am going to make a lot of related videos to textures in the future. Textures are a really big deal of graphics programming and all of that, obviously, so we are going to talk a lot more about them in the future. Other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, you can hit that like button and let me know what your thoughts are about all this stuff in the comment section below. As always, huge thank you to all.
Alright, well, that's the end of the video. Thoughts? Got really confusing at the end there, but that's because I'm doing something different. So I think I got to kind of debug that on my own. I would debug it on stream, but I'm actually meeting with someone here in about a couple minutes about one of my school projects to help them with something. So if you guys are interested, you guys should follow me on GitHub. I would really appreciate it. Make me look like a better developer than what I am. I appreciate everyone that sticks around. It kind of helps me, so thank you guys. Oh, I see someone said something. Sorry, I didn't see this. Can also suggest to use render doc for your projects. It lets you debug the shaders on the GPU. Render doc. I've never heard of that, but okay. I will take note of that over here. Render doc. Appreciate that. Thank you for the... if you could DM me on that on Discord, I'd really appreciate that. But yeah, if you guys are interested, you guys should follow me. I'll probably stream again on Thursday. I think that's the goal. I'm gonna keep slumming through his series. I think the rest of his playlist is pretty short. I think that was the longest episode. That was a pretty long episode. Yeah, 30 minutes. So I'm gonna keep progressing through it. We're pretty close to the end. I mean, I know he doesn't have much, but kind of just getting a rough feel of everything. Send the link. The link to everything is in the description. I think my Discord and my GitHub link is in the description. You guys should join. Would appreciate all the help. You know, if you guys are, are experts on this, I'm definitely not. So just trying to learn. But yeah, plan to keep streaming. Yeah, once I kind of get in the groove of my full-time job here in January, I'm gonna probably stream every night and do OpenGL stuff. So kind of get into a routine a little bit. But yeah, I appreciate you guys watching. Thanks for all the help too, and peace. I'll see you guys on Thursday probably. So peace. See you guys later.